I've got like a list of everyone. I've got like code name because no one knows the Aish rabbis. So I just want to get to know like how everyone got here and everything. And then I've got like, I came up with quirky names and I was like trying to think of what I was going to call, which rabbi were you? And I was like, you've got the stature of like Commander Rabbi, but I really think you're like the Jolly Rabbi. and you've been here like one of the longest out of it.
Yes.
How long ago?
I came to Aish for a week in 1982. Yeah. I came for 3 months in 1984. And then in 1985, I came, and I'm still here since 1985. So 41 years plus a little bit, I guess.
Wow.
Long time.
In my eyes, at least known as like the hippie rabbi. Like, because you have like this crazy past. Can you tell us a little bit about your background before Torah?
So I grew up like a regular public school guy in Toronto in the 6th. And I was always looking for something more real about reality. I felt that I saw people getting jobs they didn't like, working for companies that they didn't feel any connection to, getting deeper and deeper bags under their eyes, and just not feeling plugged into life. And I saw people already in high school like this, and I just said, there's gotta be more to this beautiful, beautiful world than just being an unhappy guy working for a job that you don't like.
Okay. And so I've got a list of like other rabbis and like my nicknames for them, and I've got you as like the dad rabbi. Like,
I'm Daddy Rabbi.
Like, yeah, like you literally like look after it. You're the one to go to. All the rabbis like, yeah, Elsant, he knows everything going down.
Okay.
So it's how like did you grow up religious?
I grew up religious. Let's go called more modern Orthodox background. You know, we had Shabbos and we had kosher food. I went to like a yeshiva day school. We also had like cable television, movies, and so it was a religious family, but also a very integrated modern family at the same time.
Oh yeah, so you had like the TV in the living room.
TV, just go to movies Saturday nights, go to the Knicks games in Madison Square Garden. So it was like very integrated with the world, but also had our religious things also.
My brother Shalom Shwarts, he's one of the 5 original students of Aish, or 6.
With Noah.
With Rabbi Weinberg, yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you obviously got to spend a lot of time with him. Do you have a random story?
Reb Noah?
Yeah, that you can tell us about Noah.
One thing that freaked me out about Reb Noah, because he knew, first of all, he was one of those people that hippies loved him, Hasidim loved him, 10-year-olds loved him, 80-year-olds loved him. Like, it takes a certain talent to speak universally. He was non-Jews, like he was able to relate. Usually you have a rabbi who's very learned, and a certain sect really like gets into the very learned sect or the very but he was able to, he understood that Torah is meant for everybody. He understood that everyone has a neshama, and he had a skill, a natural skill, I think, of talking to people that they could relate to his teachings and where they were at. It was amazing.
So it began this journey of seeking and looking. I did a lot of running as a cross-country runner.
Whoa.
I would run everywhere. We would go up to the cottage, and I would tell my friends, I'd say, no, I'm just gonna run there. I didn't even run there. Yeah, it could have been 30 kilometers away. If we were at camp and we go to a cottage, I'll just run. We didn't even run there. I'll meet you guys there. So lo and behold, they're all sitting by the campfire, and they're like, and I would just like pull up. I've arrived. No, you ran it. I ran here. Now, why was I so into running? Is that I felt that running was like my sanctuary of peace, of finding calm and connection. And I always like the idea of running is that you're not running against anybody. When you run by yourself, it's just you. You're really coming into your own mental space. And I felt it was very meditative for me. It was this beginning of the world of meditation, of spending time pushing my limits of what's possible.
You briefly mentioned that you've went to a few yeshivas before you've gone into Aish, and that started from.
The first full-time yeshiva that I ever was in was called Yeshivat Shalavim, which was this Hezra yeshiva that I went to after high school. But then there was summer programs that were learning programs, other yeshivas also. Yeah, so I've been in a lot of yeshivas.
And how long have you been at Aish for?
I'm not going to count, but we're 17 years ballpark, something like that.
And how do you like? How's Aish different? What do you like about
Aish? I would say the difference between Aish and other yeshivas that I've been involved in is that all the yeshivas I've been involved in, all in great, amazing institutions, that I would say their primary focus is on the students in the four walls of their yeshiva. And Aish has a dual focus. We are incredibly focused on the students in our four walls of the yeshiva, but at the same time, we are focused on all the students not in the four walls of our yeshiva. And that's like important in like two planes, is that like we really view as like we try and figure out new ways to teach people and inspire people outside of the walls, the greater Jewish world. It's kind of like on our student list is like all the Jewish people. Meaning there's certain students that are like we see on a regular basis, face to face, but really like all the Jewish people are students. We're trying to figure out ways to engage all of them, connect all of them in different ways. So that's like a very big difference. And another part of that is that the students that we're also teaching in our four walls, we really want to make sure that they understand that also is that their Judaism and the wisdom that they're learning is not just for them and not just for them to be better people, but also to realize that they, as part of Aish, have a responsibility to try to figure out how to share that and spread that with as many Jewish people as possible around the world and bring light to as many people.
One story I tell in particular was that when my parents were visiting, when my parents were much older, and I was living here for many years with my family at the time, my mom was just diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. You know what Parkinson's is? Yeah. So it's a slow disease that just wears you down until she passed away. Unfortunately, there's no cure. And she just got diagnosed. She was okay, but it was the start of her sickness. And she came to Rabbi Weinberg. And I'll tell you two parts of the story. So she was a little bit down. And Rabbi Weinberg, who would call my mom by her first name, and they were very friendly over many years, he would say, Lila, that was my mom's name, Lila Schwartz. Lila, this is what you have to do to cheer yourself up. You have to listen to 3 jokes a day. Hear 3 jokes a day. He goes, I will start. I'll be the first one. And he told her 3 jokes, and she was cracking up. I still remember one of the jokes today. I still tell it in Essentials. But he knew what to say at the right time. She wasn't in the mood for this heavy, like a deep, I understand. Listen to 3 jokes a day. And he was very sharp and quick with his humor. And so as they were leaving, my mom did something I never heard her say beforehand or since. She was my mom was a wonderful lady, but she said to Rabbi Weinberg, she said, Rabbi, give me a blessing. And Rabbi Weinberg was not usually the one that people went to bless. He said, he would do it, but it wasn't like his thing. Give me a bracha. And I forget what Rabbi Weinberg said, but he gave her some sort of bracha. As she was leaving, Rabbi Weinberg says back to my mom, Lila, now you give me a bracha. I give you one, you give me one. So my mom thought for a minute. She goes, really? I go, yeah, I thought for a minute. She goes, okay, Rabbi Weinberg, may you continue to do the good work that you've been doing for the Jewish people. Reb Noach Weinberg looked at her and said, Lila, I thought you were going to get me out of this mess, not to continue this mess.
I saw a lot of people don't think. I remember watching sometimes people, and I'd see people like, I would just be walking down the street. This is even back in the day before, cell phones were so big. And I would notice that people would either be, reading something, or on a phone, or very busy with something. If you saw a guy sitting on a bench, and he looked like he was just sitting like this, so likely a person would say the guy's probably nuts. He's probably crazy. It could be he was, but it could be that he was just trying to spend time thinking about what this world really is. and the beauty of this world.
A lot of life is about hearing like the right messages at the right time. And when I came here, it was a time in my life where I was trying to figure out like what's my next step, like with using my talents and my in my professional and public career. And a lot of the message that he said about like really thinking about not like what you want to do as much as what does the Jewish world need? What does the world need? What's needed? And and even if that means you changing a little bit from your like dream of what you want for yourself, or going out of your comfort zone a little bit more than you would have been used to, that type of question about understanding the needs of the Jewish people and what they are, thinking about it from like a different little perspective, less about like what I want to do, but more about like what's needed for the Jewish people. And he gave that message in a lot of different ways with a lot of strength, a lot of potency, and like really pierced to the core. It's like at a time where I was really like trying to search like for my own personal mission, and he really addressed that. So I say, and I'm speculating, but from what I see, I think a lot of Rebbeim who were here at those times were very much impacted by him. So I really feel that his legacy lives on through those people. I know me in particular, and the group that I was with, just starting in Aish at that time. He would really push us with questions about like, what is Judaism to you? Is it a religion or a relationship? You claim you really love God. Well, what does that look like? Are you thinking about all the other children of God that don't even aren't aware of a relationship with Him? Do you really? You claim you love people, and He would challenge you. Like, do you really love people? If you really love people, are you invested just in helping them physically? Why aren't you also helping them? Trying to invest in helping them spiritually, that can have an impact for eternity and beyond this world. Questions that really push you to think about your own personal beliefs. And so he did impact a lot of people. When he died, I definitely felt a void. But the feeling that I definitely felt at that time, I don't know if other people shared that, it was like a huge void, but also like an awareness is that, wow, there's so many talented people over here that are going to step up and fill that void. And it's almost like his vacancy was so big, but at the same time you felt that there were so many talented people that were just going to now almost have the space to like step up, and no one could fill his shoes, but like maybe a lot of people doing a little bit of shoe filling could have a really thing. And I think it actually in certain ways took Aish further and like to new levels by creating that vacancy.
Do you always think you're going to be a Rebbe, or like how did that happen?
Yeah, so I'll tell you one thing that really changed me. First of all, my brother eventually went into outreach too, and I saw what he was doing. I really thought was cool. But there was one incident. I was at the yeshiva for like 3 years, and I was back for Pesach, visiting my parents. I was a bocher here. I was living in a dorm studying. And Baruch Hashem, I grew up in a nice part of town in Toronto. We were pretty well off. I had parents that loved me. I had a pretty nice life growing up. And I'm with my friends who grew up in the same neighborhood that I grew up with, who were Jewish, but they were not observant. They never had the opportunity to learn Torah. And we were getting together, coming in from Israel, getting together with my old friends. And we sat down over coffee or something, about 6 or 7 of us. And each one is just kvetching. What kvetching is? They're just complaining. This one has, his car's not working right. This one, went to a restaurant and the service was terrible. They're all just kvetching and, they're all just complaining. And about their lives too, not just little things, but their lives. And I thought to myself, I never met so many people that had so much that thought they had so little. And I said, I know the Torah can help these people, and I want to be a part of it.
And I just started trying to connect to that. It took me to looking at all different religions around the world. Who's got it? Like, I know that people have been seeking out God. I know that they were seeking purpose and mission. And I wanted to see, what does everyone have to say? So I was very open to hearing the wisdom that people had to say. And eventually that led me on a journey to come to the Holy Land. And I met wonderful, wonderful people. I was at the Kotel right here. And this was the end of a birthright trip. and I got a tap on the shoulder from Rabbi Meir Schuster, a blessed memory, and he said, "Are you a Jew?" And I said, "Yes." So he says, "You should go to yeshiva." So I said, "What's yeshiva?" And he said, "Let me take you." And he took me here to Aish Torah. And I remember seeing all of these rabbis and feeling they had really good answers to the questions that I was asking. So I had more questions. And I felt that they gave very sensible answers. And like the story we've been talking about, that the treasure's in your own backyard, I realized that I went all over the place looking, but I just had to come and identify with the inner light of what the Jewish people represent. So that's a little bit of the background that led me to here.
To me, it's like no surprise after like learning what Aish was that they ended up in this position. It's just like, oh, of course, like this is the one organization that's just completely, fully and absolutely dedicated to bringing as much light as possible to as many Jewish people as possible. So Hashem's like, okay, you're obviously going to get like the place like right across from like the Kotel, Mary, because that's where whoever's doing that job, that's where they need to be. And I haven't found anyone else that's doing it like Aish.
Whoa, that's cool. And then, yeah, what about someone that's like not part of Judaism at all, like grew up completely secular? What would you say to them? Like,
I would say to them, start thinking, what's life really all about? You know, this is a short period of time. You know, everyone's going to, die sooner or later. What do you want your life to be like? Look around. Are people happy? Do you think there's some wise stuff in our tradition that kept us alive over all these years? Just take a second look. Start thinking about what you want out of life. What are you living for? What's satisfaction? What's freedom? What's happiness? And the Torah, by the way, it might surprise you, has the answers to these questions.
And then, just before you got the tap on the shoulder, you were in Hawaii before? Like, what were you doing
before the holy tap on the shoulder?
Yeah.
So yes, I was in Hawaii. I was doing work there in personal development, helping people that really were struggling with their life, whether struggling being overworked, struggling just being stressed out, anxiety, and just giving them a place to have rest and rejuvenation. We ran a center there, and I was experiencing still this beauty of creation. And I had this feeling, and I'll tell you something, that I had this feeling when I was in Hawaii, like I was living in a palace. We had this Hawaiian palace on the island of Kauai. It was so beautiful. And there was cacao trees, chocolate trees lining the driveway in towards this palace, interspaced with coconut palms and noni trees and beauty, just beauty. And I felt that I was so appreciative to be there, the types of chevra that were there, and very special people. And I had this feeling at a certain point that, and this was the feeling I had, I'm in the palace of the king, but I don't see the king. There's one thing missing, the king.
and what would you say to someone that's like, that doesn't know yeshiva, like that's thinking about coming to Aish, like?
I would say, meaning if you're thinking specifically about yeshiva, one of the things that yeshiva offers is an opportunity to really immerse in God's wisdom. And the world is so distracting. So many things popping up and advertisements and events and everything's going on. Yeshiva is a really special opportunity where you can choose to give yourself a time of immersion in wisdom, immersion in spirituality, and giving yourself that opportunity and then allowing that to develop your worldview, your character traits, your emotional health, and then take that to wherever you're going to go, to business, professional life, and any other aspects in the world, is really, really special. So I would say is that a person could always learn Jewish wisdom. You can learn online. You can find a rabbi in your home. But the thing that is unique about the yeshiva is that it allows for a person to give themselves an opportunity to really immerse themselves. And when you immerse yourself in something, the transformative effect is so substantial and powerful. It can really help people to make life-lasting changes that are helpful for them for the rest of their lives.
But we lived here in the old city for certainly 20 years or so. And I never tried to take that for granted. I really, when I was to walk the 30 seconds from my house to the yeshiva every day, I would focus on first of all, two things. Well, my grandfather, who I was close with, was from Poland originally. Thank God he took my grandmother and they got out before the Second World War, but his families were wiped out, my grandmother and grandfather's family. And they were like the old country people. They never talked English so well. And they were just wonderful, caring, loving people. And although he wasn't observant after he came to Canada, he grew up observant, it was always in his heart. They were just Jewish because that's just what they were, that was my symbol. And I just thought about two things, about how my great-grandparents, and he used to tell me stories about his family, I'm walking these streets of the old city just freely, going to an air-conditioned room. It was their dream, Shana Haba Yerushalayim, and I'm living their dream. And then I used to think, secondly, about all the wars and the soldiers and the people who fought, sometimes gave their lives for me to do this, to live peacefully in the old city. And I'm just reaping up all their benefits. And I didn't want to lose focus on that ever. And I had a saying, a mantra, that I say to myself to this day. And that is, I'm an ordinary guy in an extraordinary situation. My only advantage is I know it. Don't let me forget that advantage.
One of the first things that happened when I came to Eretz Yisrael, so I met my Rebbe, Aviol Rakovsky, and he said to me, he's like, "Oh, Moshe Chaime, where you been hanging out recently?" I said, "In Hawaii." It's like, Hawaii? That's Yud K Vav K backwards. That's Hashem's name, Hawaii. It's like, whoa, Rabbi, never thought of that, Nice to meet you too.